Hello and welcome to the theElpyDimension. I am your guide, Elpy. So, I am a little bit early, but not really since this is such a new bin. But this, it is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. And this is my new blue worm bin. A week ago on Wednesday, so that would have been the 18th. That's why I say early, because in my other bins I do 7 to 10 days, but I figure coming in here after 6 is not going to hurt. I put 67 blue worms in here because that's all I could find in my other bins. I'm sure there's more, but it was taking me forever to find them, which was kind of disappointing. So this bin, a little recap, I put in a lot of soil from outside. I put some weeds, plant matter from outside. I put in some cardboard. I had layered that on the bottom to absorb. I'd put a lot of moisture, a lot of water in the bin when I created it 5 days prior to adding 67 blue worms. I also put, what did I put in there besides? Oh shoot. I put a little, it was, no, I was about to say this is a paper plate chopped up. Oh look, there's one of our little guys. Hey buddy. Well, we know one of them's alive. I put a very small amount of chopped up peppers. Forgot I had 5 days prior. I had also put a little bit of food in here, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, I see another one. So I am checking back in. Great to see that one worm. This is basically the stem to a nasturtium plant. A nasturtium that was more dead than, it wasn't thriving by any means. It wasn't dead. But I wouldn't give it so much credit to call it alive. I think these little berries are ochre seeds. No, the ochre seeds aren't black, but they do darken. Okay. I did see one other worm. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, that's the one we just saw. Oh, here's another one. So we found 2. I don't know if I should really try to separate them out and try to count 67 right now. We know we have 2. Oh, I see a bunch more. 3. I don't even remember if this is, I think this is where I fed the first time, before I even put them in the bin, actually. So they're not where the new food is, which was over here, I think. So we've got 3. 4. There's a 5th one there. There's a 6th one. This guy keeps trying to get away. I don't really want to disturb them too much. 6. I think I'll stop picking them out. So we've got 7, 8. That's the same one. I know I disturb the heck out of my worms on a regular basis, but this being a newer bin, I don't want to really go crazy disturbing them. So we know for sure that this was a paper towel roll. Like I said, I put a lot of moisture in here, and I also put a lot of soil though, so this is really grainy, which is not bad. So we know we have 8 for sure. And I think we can safely look on the other side. This is a smaller bin than I usually use. This is about 18 by 15 by 11 inches, or 45 centimeters by 38 centimeters by 28 centimeters. I did round those numbers a little bit as necessary, anyways. Here's another one, and I don't think that's the one we just saw. It's a 9, 8 or 9, we can say. Yeah, so we've got a lot of, I would always start with at least a handful of soil when I'd start a new bin. Now I don't, there's always castings from the previous bin, so I harvest half of it. If you don't know, I harvest half my bin at a time, and add the new material, and then wait at least a couple of weeks. If the other material's ready, let's say, even if the whole bin is ready to go, I take half of it out, wait 2-3 weeks for this stuff to be inoculated and get the goodness, the microbes and the bacteria from the castings, and then I harvest the other half out. And I always do leave, I don't like scrape it super clean. But starting a new bin, I learned long ago, I would add a handful of soil from outside to bring in beneficial microbes and bacteria and just microorganisms to add to the eco waste. And I had an interesting conversation, you could say, or a discussion was started with someone, another viewer, who left in the comments, and it's really pretty common sense what they're saying, that like, okay, here's another worm. Again, I doubt they came from over there that fast, so we're at, let's call that 9 or 10. Oh yeah, so I also had some pieces of, which we have fruit fly maggots, some pieces of little chunks of eggplant. Yes, I'm crushing the fruit fly maggots. So he was pointing out that, yeah, good. So let's say 11. And they're in the cardboard, which I have worms 12. 13, like, that's 1. Let's see if we can count these a little more. Let's just try to be a little more accurate. So 13. 14. 15. It's got a little bit of a funk smell to it, no doubt from the water. 16. So I think I may have missed one. We're going to call it 16 or 17. And it's pretty wet down here. We see another worm here. I thought I saw the tail of someone else. Yeah, that's 18. But they are, even though there's a little bit of funk smell from the water, they're down there. But since it is starting to take on that funk smell, that is evidence of anaerobic bacteria, which isn't necessarily good. I don't think long term it's good in your bin. But again, they're down there. Just peeling this cardboard apart. So I'll put a little bit of the existing drier material. But I do want them to be happy in the wet stuff, if that's what they're sort of digging, they're into. So that could be 19. You know, again, I'm not really separating. Okay, this, see how fast they move? I will in the future, but I'm 6 days into it, and I kind of feel I'm being a little bit superstitious about, there's another one, and another one, about being, I mean, I'm already being super disruptive, but like picking them all out to count exactly how many I have. I'm not going to do that. So maybe I'll feed in the middle of the bin here. Am I going to add new material? You might want to know, because I want to know, in terms of paper. I think I will to the top. And I think that's how I'm going to add more moisture. Instead of dribbling it across the top, I think I'm going to just lay the wet paper across the top. So, all right. I'm very happy to see that not only are they still alive, but there's quite a few of them. So I think it's safe to assume there's at least 25 or 30. I believe that's safe to assume. Which, that's not very good numbers. If there really only is even 30, that's less than half survived. But, so this individual was telling me, like I said, it's actually a pretty common sense thing that, like, they said they started out, their first comment was, you have too much paper. And I came back like, hey, thanks for your comment. But, you know, this is how I run my bins. I don't think I can have too much paper. And as they went on to describe that, you know, paper it has absolutely no nutritional value, and that's pretty, you know, it's one thing to add paper here and there for your bin. And the other part too is that, like, I believe commercial worm farmers typically have more, like, will buy bedding like cocoa coir or peat moss. That absolutely, do I believe that's more nutritious for the worms? For sure. That's why commercial worm farmers do it, and they have great results. However, my purpose for raising worms is for the purpose of upcycling waste. It's for recycling paper products and food waste, biodegradable products. That's my purpose for worms. But it does make me say, he has a good point. I do add significant amounts of food typically, but could I gain access to more organic materials to supplement the fact that I use inert materials? It's biodegradable, but this is not organic yet. And I do believe that, and he said a lot, you know, what he was saying you can find in university studies, done on worms, and he also said that that cardboard is better for them, which totally makes sense. And when I've got cardboard and I feel like shredding it up or tearing it up, I do that, and they absolutely do love it. So I'm like, he's got an excellent point. I assume it's a he there, but it could be. I'll call them the person. They have an excellent point, and yeah, it just made me say, how could I improve my systems without spending money? Because that's the thing here, right? The money I spend is on the food that I buy, and the scraps, whether the food goes bad or it's, scraps from cooking and cutting and eating it. I should be more cognizant of using what I can that's also organic, and thus making it all the greater that I added as much soil as I added. But also, I do in the fall, I don't know if I did last year, but I have brought crushed leaves in from outside with no issues. So I wouldn't want to bag them up outside and then leave them outside and allow even more creatures to crawl into them than is already in them, and then bring them inside. But that, makes me say, yeah, you know what, make sure this year you do bring in leaves for the worms. And also, I harvested this was actually shungiku and a zinnia flower a while back, and I didn't wind up using them in the way that I wanted to. And but I said, okay, you know what I'll compost with them. And so so I'm going to add these dry dead plant matter. Now, this is it's kind of woody, so it's going to take some time to break down, but it's still organic matter. It still can only add to the overall functioning and biology, microbiology of the bin. So these didn't come fresh from outside, which could be, means there's not as many wild organisms on it, which I'm like, that's too bad. And so we got that. But yeah, I really appreciate what the information they brought to me. Like I said, it seems pretty common sense. Yeah, that does make sense. Am I going to stop feeding? Am I going to stop adding a lot of paper to my bins? No. But am I going to improve how I do what I do? Yes. So thank you. I believe your handle was something to the effect of Jack Daniels and then a number behind it. Sorry, I don't have that accessible to me right now. But I appreciate that, and I haven't been back on there to see yet if you replied to my reply, but I'd love to engage in even more discussion. I'm learning, I like to learn. This is my 5th year, and I want to keep learning, and I want to keep improving what I do in a way that sticks with my mission. So let me grab what else I have. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. What are you doing? You only have 67 worms in this bin if you still have that. But, here's what I'm thinking. So this is pak choi. So this is this is a stem that's thick. This leafy matter breaks down pretty quick. And even though it's a brassica, I would say it's a more delicate brassica. And yeah, that's kind of a lot of black raspberries that are already molding and breaking down. My thinking is that these leaves I'm looking at them differently in terms of how they're affecting the chemistry of the bin. And that, one of the things this viewer pointed out, Jack Daniels, was that paper, I think they said that that the carbon to nitrogen ratio is 200 to 1 to 300 to 1, and that really you should be more like 20 or 30 to 1. And again, saying that you can find that information in university studies. And I'm like, that makes sense, because that is something that, if you get into the science of composting, don't let it scare you away from composting. But if you want to get into the science of composting, then yeah, there's a lot of discussion about the ratio of carbon to nitrogen. So basically he's telling me, he's proving you've got too much carbon in there. My bins I've had some trouble, especially in the last year or so, but I have not had to buy any more worms. I have been able I'm trying to say that accurately, because I started 5 years ago. And I don't believe... Yeah, I bought a population, then my guy, my man bought worms not too long after I did. I do believe it was all in the same year, 2020, and then decided he wasn't going to do... He was going to let me raise the worms, which I was more than happy to take his populations. But my point being, I've not bought worms since 2020. So while I'm not killing it, I'm also not trying to sell worms. While I'm not killing it, I am doing what I set out to do, which is provide worm castings, worm farm, provide worm castings to my garden. And so that being said, my method is not so far off that I'm just failing. But he makes great points as to the science of it. So like I said, am I going to change exactly how I do what I do? No, I'm not. Am I going to completely change how I do what I do? No. Am I going to alter it? Yes. In this situation, again, there's only 67 worms in here, and so technically that was a huge feeding. But I've got berries that are already moldy, and I've got, that was probably a cup of berries, if that. No. Yeah, probably a little under a cup. 3/4 of a cup. And I put pak choi in there, which is a leafy green. So I think that those are things that are going to break down quickly. And I also added the dry greens, point being, and I sort of spread them out a little bit more, to maybe sort of kind of at least start offsetting the carbon. But again, you see this bin has a lot of soil mixed in it, you know. And I had put a zinnia in there before. So adding more organic material to this bin is not such a bad idea. I've got even more that but at the same time, while I'm like, I've got those carrot tops over there that I could add. At the same time, this is a new bin. This is a new thing I'm sort of reaching out and thinking about doing. So I also don't want to go too far overboard of being like, yeah, I should provide a more nutritious base for them. Do I add even more? I have an idea. I wouldn't do this with any other food item, because leaves are very different than putting in even berries that turn to mush without any effort. Put berries in your refrigerator, and 2 days later they're mush. Unless you get it. So what I'm gonna do that is different, and because, well, fruit flies they're gonna be attracted to anything rotting. And but it's not like these are berries. I'm going to put that stuff on top, since they're greens. And I'm going to leave it on top. I'm not going to mix it into the bedding. I'm going to leave it on top. And then I just put this shredded paper in the water that's been sitting. Actually, water that came from my dehumidifier. I feel great about splashing it almost in my eye. So definitely the chlorine is dissipated from out of here. I think we're good with that. And we're just going to top dress this. Now, I've got to get better at not wanting to always add. Actually, maybe I will take a little bit. Next time, maybe. I know you sort of. What are you saying to me, person? Jack, are you saying you contradict yourself at the same time you're still adding more carbon? I am, but I added it to the top as a secondary blanket. You see that they aren't really at the top in this bin. So this is the layer that's going to dry out first. And if they like to, they'll come up here. All right, so there is our check-in to the new blue worm bin. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll go ahead and take the time to count. No, I think I'm going to give it a month. Yes, I'm going to give it a month. So I said today's the 24th, so we go 17. On the 18th, on the 18th of September is when I put the worms in this bin, when I collected them and added 67 blue worms to this bin. So probably won't be exactly the 18th, but around 18th, 19th, 20th of October is when I'm going to check in here weekly and feed them and see how this breaks down. But on around the third week of October, I will count them and look for cocoons. And because we do have some adults in here, there were blue worms with clitellums. Look for cocoons and see, do I have at least 67 blue worms? Will I have more? Will I have less? We'll see. Let me know what you think. And let me know what you think of how I just did what I did. Was this too soon? Or is this going to be great? Okay. So again, today is the 24th of September. It is a Tuesday, 2024. And I'm only going to do, I'm going to check in on this bin, and I'm going to check in on one other bin. That'll be 7 days for them. And that's going to be the worm bin number 4. Used to be European Nightcrawler bin. In fact, it used to be European Nightcrawler bin number 2. Now it is mixed worm bin number 4, and we're just going to break that down to number 4. But I have found some stickers that came with my green stalk that I'm actually going to start adding to the bins, and hats off to Nana's Worms for, I was inspired by the fact that she named her bins. And I'm like, that is a great idea instead of just doing 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is fine. But so I thought, instead, I'm not going to take her idea. I'm not take it, use it. But I am going to use that inspiration and say, I'm going to add a sticker. I'm going to add something that makes this bin its own. So, thank you, Nana's Worms, if you watch this. If you watch this, thank you. All right, so this is the blue worm bin, and our first check-in since starting it, and I'm happy to see that they're in there and they're active. And yeah, so I said I was going to add more water, didn't I? Then I said I wasn't, because I'm like, I'm adding this food, but seeing them down at the bottom in the water like that, and seeing that this stuff it's just less moist up top. We're just gonna do a little bit of a drizzle, because we definitely want to encourage breeding. So maybe I added cup and a quarter of water. And I know I had some stink down there, so all the more reason to make sure this has been 6 days. All the more reason to make sure that I check back in and keep aerating the bin. Oh, this is the wet one. Okay. Sweet. Well, so far I feel like this is pretty good. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Be safe. Be well. Bye for now.